Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on another edition of Extreme Health Radio. And normally I have my beautiful co-host and wife here with me, Kate, but she is unable to be here today, so we apologize for that. She had a commitment that she couldn't get out of, and that's how that works. So I appreciate you joining us today. My name is Justin, and we're currently broadcasting worldwide from Southern California. It's a beautiful day here, and our guest, Charles Erwin, is in Texas, and I hear the weather is good there too. So hopefully you're having a good day wherever you are on the planet listening to this. I hope that your day is going well, and we want to thank you for joining us here again. We do 4 shows a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and usually Friday or Sunday. We're going to nail down that Friday show probably on Fridays. So I just want to let you know we do 4 shows a week, and if you would like to follow us and what we're doing, we'd love to have you join our community. We post a few times a day on Facebook, and it's a lot of fun to interact with everyone and post inspiring information. You can check that out if you're interested at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook. And I wanted to thank Mike Adams of Natural News Radio for having us on his network. It's naturalnewsradio.com, and Natural News is a huge website, the #1 website in natural news information, so check those out. And for reference, today is Tuesday, May 14th, 2013. Time is flying by. It's already going to be summer. Can't believe that. And let's see, this is episode number 99. So you could find the show notes, the transcription, any reference materials, any good stuff like that Charles mentions today on extremehealthradio.com/99. No need to take notes. And if you'd like to interact with us and join us on the show, we'd love to have you join us and ask your questions. You can do so a few different ways. You can send an email to Justin at extremehealthradio.com, Kate at extremehealthradio, that's Kate, or you could send us a voicemail at extremehealthradio.com/voicemail, and you can record that right from your computer. Or if you like, you can contact us on Skype, actually, at our ID is Extreme Health Radio, so you can chime in on there. That'd be fun. And I want to let you know this show is brought to you by Amazon, and I want to thank everyone who's purchased from Amazon through our link. We've been really blessed and grateful for you supporting us that way. So if you ever make purchases, it doesn't have to be health related. Anytime you do so, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, and that'll help support our work. And we've got a lot of great guests coming up too. We've got Adam Bergstrom. He does the chronobiotic nutrition. He's a real cutting edge guy, and that'll be on Thursday, May 16th. And then we've got a real good guy that we're really looking forward to, Jim Humble, on Monday, May 20th of this month, 2013. And he works with MMS, and MMS is really an amazing substance for healing any pathogenic organisms in the body, and so it relates to just about every disease MMS can work on. So it's really a cutting-edge substance. And then we've got Dr. Harvey Beagleson on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2013, and he does the live blood analysis, and he's a really cutting-edge guy. You'll be shocked to hear some of the things that he's uncovered about live blood cell analysis. So check out that show, Dr. Harvey Beagleson. Today we're going to take a little bit of a change in our show and talk about freedom issues, and I believe these are critically important. I believe that health and freedom and all of these kinds of issues that we think are different are really, really kind of interconnected. And if you look at issues like vaccines or child protective services, healing diseases, if you want to go to a real healing clinic, you have to go to Mexico or outside the country. Codex Alimentarius, trying to control our food supply, and this whole thing with mandatory health insurance too, Obamacare, and all the geoengineering, all this stuff relates to government. So today we have a really, really great guest, Charles Erwin, and his website is AmericanFreedomBooks.com, AmericanFreedomBooks.com, and he's an author and written, I think he's working on his second book now, and he's going to be talking about all these kind of issues. And is that right, Charles? You're on your second book already?
I am on my second book right now, yeah. It's being edited at the moment. It's going a little slower than I thought, but it should be out soon.
Okay, and the first one's been released and people can purchase that on your website?
That's true.
Okay.
AmericanFreedomBooks.com.
Okay, and you're in Texas, and so do you find Texas being a pretty good state for these types of issues, or?
Well, Texas is in the middle. That it's not the greatest, it's not the worst. It's right in the middle. Freedom issues. Most of our governments today, people don't realize that we're a corporate United States right now. Back in with the Act of 1871, and some of this stuff's hard to believe, but you can research it on my website and other places. But Congress actually created a separate government with the Act of 1871. They created a government of the District of Columbia. And they had no authority to do so. We already had the government of the United States.
Right.
So we're working on two governments. We got two United States, and the government District of Columbia is a corporation.
Right. Most people don't realize the government of the United States or for the United States. It's all these kind of words of art, they call them, but most people don't realize there's all these differences with their terminology of and for, and the corporate fictions of people, and people just don't I think, it's probably by design, right?
Yeah, it's by design. It's all the legal system. The founding fathers of this nation created the United States of America as a republic, and they created with the Constitution for the United States of America. With the Act of 1871, Congress created a democracy, and they created a legal constitution called the Constitution of the United States of America.
So is that why we do, as children, we pledge allegiance to the United States? Is that what we say, of America?
No, we say for.
Yeah, for. And so they created the United States of America. And when the president gives his oath, he's doing it of America, not for, right?
Well, see, now the oath is a little different. The Constitution does say Constitution of the United States, but it's a term.
Okay.
Term versus definition. So, when we're talking, we can say Constitution of the United States of America, and that's what, the oath is. It's a speech, it's talking, so it's a terminology.
Okay.
But legal lawyers went in and actually defined the Constitution of the United States to mean something else.
Okay, so let's kind of lay down the groundwork, first of all, of legal versus lawful, because that can really become part of what we're going to talk about. There's big differences between legal and lawful, right?
Right. Lawful law is what our republic was founded on. Lawful law is the substance of law. Common law is what we used to be under. Now, legal law is statutory law. It's a form of law which can often be applied technically, and right now they're applying it. Lawyers are applying it technically to rob us of our natural rights and freedom. So, really, you have to think of it. We've been conditioned to believe that every legal law is what we should be going by, but actually, every legal law is an unlawful law.
Okay.
And it's unconstitutional.
So, a lawful law is set up surrounding the republic, which is what we should be using as our system, but we're under a democracy, at least we think we are, and we're using legal law. Is that right?
Correct. A democracy is not what people think it is. I mean, we've been conditioned once again to think democracy is this great system but that's not the system the founding fathers created. The founding fathers created America as a republic. Mm-hmm. And the difference is, in a republic, if you want to wear a purple shirt and 51% of the people, 99% of the people don't like purple, they can stop you from wearing a purple shirt because that's democracy. Right. Majority rules.
Majority rules, okay.
In a republic, if 99% of the people don't like you wearing a purple shirt, they still can't stop you from wearing a purple shirt because you're not harming anyone. Okay. You have a right to wear a purple shirt.
Okay, so a lot of this has to do also with not harming other I shouldn't say individuals because that's a loaded term, but other persons, right? When you are applying these kinds of laws, it matters whether or not someone else is actually harmed in a physical sense or in some other kind of sense.
It matters if there's a victim or not. Legal laws allow victimless crimes. Lawful laws, which we should be under, if there's no victim, then there's no crime.
So how do they determine the victim? Is there a trying to figure that out? How they determine what a victim? That doesn't necessarily mean a physical abuse, right?
There has to be a victim. For instance, if you're driving down the street, you stop at a red light, and you don't come to a complete stop, and city camera takes a picture of your car, didn't come to a complete stop, and you make a right-hand turn. You get a ticket.
Right.
But there's no crime being really created. There's no victim. Nobody was hurt. You didn't make a right-hand turn and run into anybody.
Right.
The city's just giving you a ticket, which is a tax, for a victimless crime. The legal system allows that. In the lawful system, if that happened, no harm, no foul, there's no victim, you wouldn't get a ticket.
Okay, right. So a lot of this really, I feel like a lot of what we're talking about really kind of depends on or kind of rests on who we are as people. And I'm sure you feel the same way because we all think that we're citizens and, we want our civil rights and all these kinds of things. But really understanding the split title that they've created around us. So really who we are is one of the most important things to understand starting out of the gate, right?
Yeah, out of the gate, what's been done to us is your birth certificate is a fraudulent contract. The government uses that birth certificate and makes you an economic slave of the government. Mm-hmm. What happened back in 1913? There was the Federal Reserve Act was passed, creating the Federal Reserve Bank, mm-hmm. and Congress was supposed to took out a bunch of loans for the United States corporation, and they were supposed to use gold and silver to pay the international bankers and domestic bankers their money back mm-hmm. for the loans. Well, they ran out. There's only so much gold and silver, so they ran out, and so they started using us as collateral.
So that's when they started the whole birth certificate thing to get us.
And your birth certificate is actually sold on the stock market.
Really? Oh, yeah. So does it have a QSIP number?
It does.
It does. Okay.
And actually, I think, in my opinion, that's why immigration is such a big issue. Because the last time I checked, every birth certificate's Congress gets $3 million from the International Bank, from the Federal Reserve Bank for each birth certificate.
All right.
So,
wow.
So babies, illegal immigrants, children that are born here mm-hmm. become citizens, and they get to become economic slaves as well for the corporate United States.
I love the way you word that. They get to become economic slaves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So now the birth certificate thing, what happens if you're born, let's say, at home? If a lot of our listeners are, interested in doing the home birth thing, and is there a way to not get a birth certificate?
Yeah, there's a way to not get it, but the legal system is all inclusive. If you have any government contract, then that puts you in their jurisdiction. If you have a driver's license, Social Security card, which they force us to get, mm-hmm. You open up a bank account, you have to get a EIN number of some kind or use your Social Security number. All these are identifying numbers saying that it's owned by the government. If you use it, then you're owned by the government. So,
is there a way to interact in society? Because there are people that don't have birth certificates or Social Security numbers. Is there a way to gracefully live in this society without such documents?
There used to be, but all the loopholes are pretty much closed now. There's no graceful way to do it. I wrote my book so I could explain how it's being done and how the legal laws are all inclusive and showing the fraud in every single instance. So hopefully the people that, a lot of people have read my book, and so we're waking up.
Right. So now with this idea of who we are as people, how do we go about understanding this whole idea of now that we have the birth certificate, in place, that sort of is the catalyst for the vehicle whereby, we can have this whole thing with divided title, and explain that a little bit with people, how the corporate fiction works in people's lives.
Well, everything that you purchase has split title now. Your house, your car. There's equitable title. You go buy a car at the dealer. You pay for tax, title, and license. So what happens is as a manufacturer's statement of origin, when you get that car, whoever has a manufacturer statement of origin owns the car. Now, the dealer's going to send that to the state. The state's going to send you back a title. That title is going to be a split title. It's going to be equitable title. You can buy and sell the car, but the state will have the legal title to it. The state owns it. That's why they can force you to get it inspected. That's why they can force you to put their license plates on it. It goes into their motor vehicle bank. They own the car. Whoever has legal title owns it.
So what you want on everything that you have is legal title, not equitable title.
Well, you want lawful title. We want to kill this system. We want to kill the legal system in every way.
I see. Okay, so you want lawful title, and that's why when people have cars, they have to get insurance, or they have to have licenses, or they have to pay their taxes on their homes and things, right?
Right. The cop's stopping you when you run a red light or whatever. He has the authority to do that, the legal authority, because the state owns your car that you're driving. It's not really yours.
So does the state own the streets, the roads, or are those owned by the people?
Those are owned by the state.
Owned by the state. Okay. Split
title is the same way when you buy a house. You can buy a house and the mortgage is paid for, but you're still paying property taxes, right? You're paying those property taxes because the state owns legal title, and they're making you continue to pay a tax even though you think you own it.
Yeah, because you could pay off your house 100 times over, and if you don't pay your property tax, they come and God knows what they'll do to you.
Yeah, that split title, once again, you have equitable title to buy and sell the house.
Uh-huh.
But the state owns legal title, so they own it. That's why they can come in and, the cable people the phone people can come and dig up under your land and put in cable and pipes and all this stuff, and you have no say, and you can't stop them because it's the city and state owns, the corporation owns legal title to your house. Now, and it's all fraud. All this is based on fraud because Americans don't know what's going on.
Now,
every one of these contracts, these legal contracts, are unlawful and they're fraudulent.
Well, golly, yeah, and the whole name of the game is keeping it away from the public so people don't know this, right?
Right.
So how did they?
It's all perception.
How did they get legal title of the land that your house sits on? Is that some fancy lawyers did that a lot of years ago, or how did that happen?
Yeah, if you when you buy a house, you sign it over, and there's a trustee, and you say that you're the tenant. And if you look at your contract, it says you're the tenant.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the owner; you're the tenant. So it's not yours from the beginning.
So when there's just so many directions we could go here. We got to take a break in a couple minutes, but I want to ask you about the house thing. If you buy a house, at some point you turn over. I'm not sure how the whole process works. You probably know how it works, but at some point in the signing of the documents, you own that house outright, and then you give it back to them, right?
From what I've learned, at some point, you own it. I mean, it's your signature that actually creates the money from the bank that you're getting the loan from.
Right.
The bank will take that signature. Say if the house is $100,000, and it's a debit and credit system, but the bank will take that $100,000 and give itself an asset. That's how money's created.
And so money gets created. Does it get created on multiple levels, like at the Federal Reserve, and then on the bank level as well? Yeah,
we have. They like to call it leveraging, but it's fraction banking.
Fractional reserve banking, and is that mentioned in the modern money mechanics and all of that?
It is, yes.
Wow, and that's another thing.
The legal system has taken over our lives.
It has. I mean, we don't know any of this, and they won't teach it to us in school. What's the point of going to school then? We don't know any of this stuff.
Well, the government controls education, so that's why we don't know it.
Right. They have to protect their brand, I guess, right?
Right.
Wow. Well, you know what? We got to take a short break. I want to get a break over with because I've got so many more directions that we could go. So we're having a lot of fun with Charles Erwin, and don't forget to check out his website and book, and he's got a second book coming out. His website is AmericanFreedomBooks.com, and we'll be right back with Charles Erwin after this break. So rebounding is, in my mind, one of the best ways to detoxify your lymphatic system, and it's the only exercise on earth that will actually detoxify your lymphatic system, and your lymph system is responsible for storing toxins and chemicals and poisons that you're exposed to, and there's no pump for the lymph system. It doesn't have a heart, so you have to move it up and down, and it's filled with millions of one-way valves that get squeezed and pushed and opened and closed every time you jump. And we feel like we've found the best rebounder on the market today. It's the Rolls Royce of rebounding. It's called the Bellicon, and I highly, highly stand behind this product. It's absolutely amazing. If you want to hear what some of our guests said about it, check them out on our store. You can listen to what a lot of our guests have said about rebounding, and the Bellicon in particular. So a lot of times people will go on the rebounder with oxygen for cancer if they're really sick, and it's one of the most powerful things you can do to cleanse your body and to exercise every single cell in your body, every organ in your body. It's the only internal organ exercise you could do, and it's absolutely incredible. It also helps to rebuild bone density because of the up and down motion, the G-force that gets applied to every cell of your body, and it tightens and tones your body, and it's just really, really great aerobic exercise. And the Bellicon is made with straps, these bungee cords instead of springs, so it's silent, and they have a warranty on it. It's the best rebounder on the market today. So if you're in the market for one, I would highly recommend just saving up and getting the Bellicon, because there's no other rebounder on the market that's better than this thing. I firmly believe that. So if you're interested in it, check it out, extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. That's B as in boy, ELLICON. And you can learn more about it and watch the videos on that page too. So thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy your rebounder, and we'll catch you on the next episode. All right, we're having an very interesting conversation here with Charles Erwin from AmericanFreedomBooks.com, and I've had a chance to check out his book, and I would highly, highly recommend learning about this information, because I think it's really, really important for people, especially in the health-minded crowd, because all of these things are coming down on us with the Obamacare and the mandatory health insurance, and like I was talking about earlier, the Codex Alimentarius, and what people think are mandatory vaccines for sending your children to school. And all of this kind of freedom, all of these kinds of freedom issues really kind of touches our lives in many ways, no matter what your real passions are, even if you're into health. So I would highly recommend checking out his book, AmericanFreedomBooks.com, and read it and learn about this kind of stuff. And in this interview and in this show, we can only go so deep, and we're going to kind of touch on hopefully a bunch of issues that are concerning you. And prior to the break, Charles, we were talking about a little bit about how money is created, and when people purchase homes and that kind of thing. And so when someone goes for a loan for a house, they will sign some papers, and that signature is what actually creates the money from the Federal Reserve that gets sent to the bank. Is that kind of?
That's correct, because money's not real. I mean, it's just right now, it's just digits on a computer. So, it's based on our labor. Mm-hmm. So when you sign that contract, you're saying that you're going to work to pay that back. So it's based on your labor. So the bank will take that contract and register it on the debit side and on the credit side. But what they also do, which is unlawful, is take it and claim it as an asset, a bank asset. And so the bank gets a $100,000 deposit if the house is $100,000 based on your signature, and you get to pay that back with interest.
And they get that
totally created from your signature out of thin air.
So that's really what's construed as I forgot what the term is for that, but it's really an unlawful asset that they've just created, because I believe there's a court case in the 40s where someone won back their house, and it was determined that the bank put up no reasonable, I forget what the word is for the house, and so that asset is really an unlawful asset that they have.
Yeah, but the legal system allows them to do that now.
Wow.
That's why the legal system must be destroyed and the lawful system reinstated.
So, I should ask you, starting out, how did you get into this?
I was actually, back in the 80s, I was, a friend of mine was doing taxes. He did my taxes for me, income taxes, and the IRS came in, swooped down, closed his office down, because what he was doing was he had a bunch of companies that were taking a loss, and he would get people to invest in the companies, and then his clients could take a part of that loss on their taxes. So he was saving the companies, because you give part of that money back to the company, because you're part owner in the company. It was a tax shelter for regular people. IRS didn't like it. They shut his office down, closed him down. He wanted to get back in business, so he came to me. He's a friend of mine. He wanted to open his office back. I mean, they didn't do anything to him. They just shut him down.
Wow.
Didn't charge him with anything. Just didn't like what he was doing and shut him down.
I love that. I
talked to 2 attorneys about what he was doing. They said it's totally legal.
Yeah.
I didn't know hardly any of the stuff I know now back then. But so I rented an office for him. He got back in business, got going again. IRS came in, shut him down again. This time they arrested him. They arrested me and 4 others of our friends. And I had to go through a trial, a 2.5-month trial for my freedom against the IRS.
Wow. My
friend that was doing the taxes, he was convicted. The rest of us were acquitted. But that started me on my quest to expose the truth. Because the new income taxes was voluntary compliance, and we didn't have to pay income taxes. And so I started researching that, and I started going to seminars, and then I started putting on income tax seminars, and so that's how I got into writing the book.
It always starts with income taxes or speeding tickets, it seems, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, the big thing now that's going around the news is the IRS is attacking patriot organizations. Right. And everybody's in an uproar about the IRS attacking patriot organizations, when the IRS is actually an unlawful entity that shouldn't be allowed to exist on American soil in the first place. So it's funny that the things that we get upset about.
Is that why they're sort of they're off of the continental United States? Aren't they in Guam or something?
They only have jurisdiction in territorial states like Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands.
Theoretically, could they be in a place like the 10 square miles that encapsulates Washington, D.C.? Could they be there, theoretically?
That's where the democracy United States democracy lies in Washington, D.C., and the territorial possessions.
What about...
And what's happened is they've taken that democracy and spread it all across the United States of America, when they're supposed to be the democracy and all the legal laws can only exist in territorial possessions that the government owns and controls. The government doesn't own and control the Union states.
Right.
And what's happened is we've got treason in all the states and all the cities, treason and ignorance. Our elected officials, our states are supposed to protect us from all these federal laws, like Obamacare and things like that. If your government can't make you purchase anything, they can't make you do anything lawfully. In the legal system, you got this system where the government is on top and the people are on the bottom.
So they can't.
And that's not the way it's supposed to be.
They can't legally force you into contract. That would be like saying.
They can legally do it. They can legally do almost anything.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that would be almost as if the government...
Lawfully, they can't.
As if the government is saying, you must buy a car, and we don't care what kind you buy, but you must buy one. That's kind of the same thing, right?
Sure.
So now everything works on contract and corporate fiction, and are individual cities and counties and all of that, are those all legal corporate fictions as well, or is it just the states and different entities like us, or does it go down to different counties and cities and things like that too?
It goes down to counties and cities and things like that too. In the democracy, the legal democracy that's been created for us, that's unconstitutional and unlawful, the federal government's on top. And this is all the corporation. Mm-hmm. The federal government is the highest corporation, and the state corporations, then county, city corporations, and the me and you corporations at the bottom.
Okay.
Now, in our lawful republic, it's supposed to be the people on top, and then your city and your county and your state and the federal government on the bottom.
Okay.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Now, I want to go back to this issue of the child birth, and the birth certificate really quickly. If you get a birth certificate, recently there was a story here in California where Child Protective Services came and took away a child of a mother who had a kid who had a heart condition, and I posted a blog about it recently, and the title of my blog was CPS Owns Your Child, for those that are interested. But so when the CPS is involved, that's because the child has a birth certificate and is technically a corporate fiction that is owned by the state. Is that right?
That's correct. Either that, or your marriage license is also a corporate document, which is it's a third-party document. When you get married, it's you, your wife, and the state.
Okay. And
so the state owns everything that comes from the marriage, which is children. So that's another way that they try to take legal title and own your children. So it can be based on marriage license, a birth certificate. But see, now the government's out of control. Like, so I mean, there's people that don't have birth certificates. People don't get married, but the government will still come in. That's what happens with places like Waco and the situation years ago with I believe it was the Mormons, where the state of Texas came in and took their children.
Oh, right, with the guy.
Yeah, that's just conquest. That's by force, because most of those people weren't married. They didn't have birth certificates. The government knew that. They'd been fighting with them back and forth, and so they just come in, and if you're not complying with their system, they force you to comply or they kill you, usually.
So if you're a person out there listening, and let's say a couple that has a marriage license, and we can speak about licenses because that's another whole black hole, but for sake of argument, and two people have a marriage license and they're married, and if they have a child not in a hospital at home, technically the state would still own that child because of the corporate interaction between husband and wife, right?
That's correct.
Wow.
If you have a marriage license, then, the state owns all the fruit that comes from that marriage.
Wow. So, golly. So, is our trust, what we have, who we are, is considered a trust? Is that possible? Is it possible to liquidate the trust? Is the trust worth anything?
What do you mean by trust?
Well, the legal, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't even, I get tripped up in words here, but aren't we all a corporate, like a trust where there's actually some value, monetary value that's been associated with it? And is it possible to exercise a way of liquidating that asset?
Are you talking about UCC and redemption?
Yeah.
I would see, now to me, UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, that's a form of legal law once again. And a lot of people like to look at UCC and, control their straw man and get their, but that would probably work if you were like Bloomberg or something like that, because they created the system for themselves to operate in.
Okay. But
for me and you say you get a piece of paper and you control your name in all caps, and I mean, what law enforcement officer is going to back you up?
And even understand what that means, probably, right?
Right.
Wow.
So, conceptually, it should work, because in the legal system, that's how they do it. But I think it depends on who you are. And, we're not, it's still legal law. And, the UCC was created by a group of lawyers and judges. I mean, that's not what we want.
Right. And that is the UCC kind of like the common code that's used around the world? Is that a standard thing it's
standardized for the states.
For the states.
So people need to realize is the states are actually countries joined by the Constitution.
Okay.
So every state's really a country. So anything comes from the federal government, your state government could protect you from it. But the states legislators, the governors, are mostly treasonous as well, and most of them are lawyers, and they go by the legal system. Now, I don't want to say all lawyers are evil or dishonest, but I mean, 35 of the founding fathers were lawyers, but see, they were called common lawyers.
Okay.
And the difference between the lawyers of today and the founding fathers is, in 1878, the American Bar Association came to our shores, and so all lawyers now have to get a bar license.
Mm-hmm.
That bar license, bar stands for British Accredited Registry. So these lawyers today, operating on the legal system, are really loyal to the British Accredited Registry, British royalty first, which is how we've got our country taken away. The Great Britain really still controls America because they sent their lawyers over here, and all our lawyers have to get a bar license to practice law. And all our law is based on copyrighted law or the British Accredited Registry. The legal system, that's why you can't practice law without a license.
Right.
A license gives you the right to use their copyrighted legal laws.
It's like this fictional world they've created for themselves, It's just amazing.
Just like the Matrix, there's the real people, and then there's the people in the Matrix.
So what is the deal with, like you just mentioned, America? America is completely different than the United States, and the United States of America and for America. Those are all three different entities, aren't they?
Yeah, you've got if you see your name in all capital letters, it usually means you're a corporation.
Okay.
If you look at any government document that you get back, your name will be in all capital letters. That's a corporation. Your bank documents, everything you have, that gives them legal jurisdiction over you. It's all fraud, so they have no lawful jurisdiction over you. But it's going to work until we educate ourselves and wake up.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Oh, just the difference between, America. Most people think America is the same as the United States. And it's, I think they're different entities, aren't they?
America, yes. There's United States, the lawyers, once again, you go to Black's Law Dictionary or United States Code and you see these things defined. You see United States in all caps. That's usually, that can either be the corporation or that can be the territorial United States, which is D.C. and the territorial possessions like Guam, Puerto Rico. I mean, it's all legal tricks with capital letters and definitions
right.
that the attorneys have created for us. It's all fraud because we don't know. The contracts that we signed have to be known by both parties, and both parties don't know what's going on. Only the government knows what's going on.
Right. And it's all, everything is really contract. And if you're not, if you don't understand contract, then you're not going to understand a lot of these issues. But we got to take a little break here again. I want to have a longer break at the end of this segment, and we're with Charles Erwin having a really interesting conversation about issues that you may or may not have heard before. And if this is intriguing you to some degree, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, which I think we all should be, you can check out his website, AmericanFreedomBooks.com, and you can buy his book there. And he's also got another one coming out soon. So make sure to check out his website and get his book and learn more about this. But in the meantime, we've got to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this. I do a lot of weightlifting and lifting heavy weights at the gym, and I love it. But there's also another side to working out, which actually helps you increase the energy in your body. As you know, in our culture, just about everything is a stress to our body. It depletes us of life force energy and our energy in general, whether it's, coworkers or getting to work or dealing with difficult family members, things like that. All of these things cause stress and energy depletion in our body. And something like Qigong is a really great way to help cultivate your inner energy, and it's been practiced by people in the East for thousands of years. It's put together by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/Qigong, which is Qigong, and it's called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. And I highly recommend getting this product. It comes as a physical product to your house with really great DVDs and workbooks on how to do this ancient art of cultivating your inner energy and building that core energy of your body. And it's been practiced, like I said, for thousands of years. So I highly, highly recommend checking it out. If nothing else, just go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong, Qigong, and get on their mailing list because they'll send you lots of free information as well. So check out Peter Ragnar. He looks amazing for how old he is. He's been doing this for like 60 years or something. It's really an amazing product. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. Well, I can tell you, I'm learning a lot from Charles Erwin, and I hope you guys are too. And this is really, really interesting information. I hope you're having a good time listening to this and understanding how you might apply some of these principles into your own life. And that's kind of some of the things that we want to talk about in this third segment. It's just how we can really apply some of this stuff. And so, Charles, before the break, we were talking about, some of the differences between America and the United States of America and things like that. And so when we go and vote for the president, in my mind, I have it like it's similar to voting for the president of Coca-Cola or something like that. Is that?
It's exactly what you're doing. Like, for instance, right now, President Obama is not a natural-born citizen.
Uh-huh.
He was, they talk about people are upset about his birth certificate, and they're saying his, birth certificate is a legal document. So, if you're listening, please don't focus on the birth certificate. The birth certificate can be fabricated. It can say anything. It's a legal document for the United States corporation.
Okay.
Now, under the lawful United States, not lawful republic, President Obama is not a natural-born citizen, so he can't be president.
Okay.
Of the United States of America, because he was born in Hawaii, but both his parents weren't American. His father's African, so you can't be president that way. That's not a natural-born citizen.
Okay.
But he can be president of the United States corporation because that's a corporation. That's not, under the Constitution of the United States, their legal constitution, he can be president.
But he can't be president of the United States for the United States.
Right. He can't be president of our lawful republic, but he can be president of their legal democracy, which is a corporation, and that's what he's doing. And Congress knows that. They vetted him. They allowed him to run. All these guys in the federal and state government, they're committing treason because they know it.
So
most of them know it. Most of them are attorneys. They know.
Yeah,
they know the game.
I was going to ask you that. Do they? A lot of times we are question ourselves and think, with pharmaceutical medications and things in the pharmaceutical industry, we think, do the doctors, are they evil, or is it the head, the mucky mucks at the top of the pharmaceutical corporations, are they evil? Who's the one that's really doing the evil things? Do you think that the president, like Obama, do you think he understands this stuff?
Well, he's supposed to be a constitutional lawyer, so I would hope so.
You would hope so, but even if he did, it's not like we'd ever know that. But yeah, it's just wild.
The problem is most of our politicians, once again, have a bar card, and their bar card allows them to practice the legal system, and that's what they're loyal to, the legal system. When we should have a lawful system. If you look at like Democrats and Republicans, if you look at the Constitution, you will not find Democrat or Republican in the Constitution.
It's not there.
It's not there. A politician, the definition of political party is a number of persons united in opinion and organized in the manner usual to the then existing political parties, an unincorporated voluntary association of persons sponsoring certain ideas of government or maintaining certain political principles or beliefs in public policies of government, not a governmental agency or instrumentality. That comes from Black's Law Dictionary. So, political parties are not a part of the government, yet we have allowed them to hijack our electoral system.
And everyone thinks that it's always black and white and Republican, Democrat, and
it's just one party. The New World Order and the elites control both sides.
Mm-hmm. And really, it's plutocracy, right? It's really just money controlling and corporate power, and all of these wars that we're in are just corporate wars, and it's all just corporations, right?
It's all just corporations, and what we need to realize, too, is that we don't have constitutional rights. The Constitution is a document for the government to follow. Puts limits on what they can and cannot do. You have natural rights that are supposed to be protected by the Constitution. Civil rights and natural rights aren't the same thing. Civil rights are rights like when minorities couldn't come into a restaurant and eat. Civil rights give minorities the right to go into a restaurant and eat. Just like anybody else. That's what civil rights are.
Okay.
Natural rights are rights you're born with. You have a natural right to arm yourself. You have a natural right to protect yourself. All this stuff with gun laws, every gun law, legal gun law is unconstitutional because it violates your natural rights.
So all these people running around screaming about, I want my civil rights or the Constitution gives me the right to X, Y, Z, they're just unknowingly playing that corporate game, right?
Sure. We've been conditioned. We want our legal rights. We want our civil rights. Those are the rights that we've got. They're unconstitutional rights that violate our natural rights. You don't want civil rights.
So would you consider yourself a 14th Amendment citizen?
No, the 14th Amendment was never properly ratified. The 14th Amendment is actually another document that's solidifying the creation of the United States corporation. That's all it is.
Okay. So
if you look at it, it talks about creating officers and the president and all this stuff once again. And Article 1 in the original Constitution already had that set up. So
if you were to get pulled over, by the cops, by the federales, the cops, what kinds of things do you do? Do you just kind of smile and nod and then take care of it, after the being on the side of the road, or what kinds of things do you do if you get pulled over?
Well, I'm doing what I can do right now by talking to you on the radio. There's nothing. These cops are running around with guns. They have the authority to shoot us and kill us. So, I'm not going to start spouting out legal versus lawful laws that they know nothing about.
Right.
That's not a recipe for success. The moment when we can protect ourselves, my new book will explain how we can protect ourselves from these people without involving politicians. So there's a way to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm interested in.
We'll talk about that next time I'm here. But it's one person really. I mean, you can't protect yourself. These police, if they're unelected, they shouldn't be stopping you anyway. They have no authority over you because you didn't elect them. Only police that have authority over you are sheriffs, elected sheriffs.
Right, the elective sheriff, and he's the elective aren't they the most powerful kind of people?
Most powerful law enforcement position in the country over FBI, CIA, everybody, but they don't know it. They've been, delegated to last place. They think.
So they don't even.
A lot of them know it.
Okay.
But most of them don't.
So if you get pulled over, you just kind of I guess, act copacetically and nice and take care of it out, not get argumentative, I guess, and just take care of it outside of that whole time on the road then.
Yeah, I mean, the legal system is everywhere. Our courts are statutory courts when they should be common law courts. All our judges, the Supreme Court doesn't have the right to rule on the Constitution. If you look at the Supreme Court, that's a funny one. If you look at the Supreme Court, they always call it the Supreme Court opinions. That's how they get out of trouble.
Oh.
They're not really decisions, they're opinions. And we follow them because we think we're supposed to.
So do they call them opinions?
Call them opinions.
I love it.
You go to their website, you will not find a Supreme Court decision. They're all opinions.
Wow.
And that's how they get out of trouble. They're writing this stuff down. Everybody can see it. So if we wake up, they don't want to be hung for treason. So it's just an opinion. 300 million people followed our opinion. We didn't tell you to.
Wow.
It says right there it's an opinion.
I'd have to say that I would have been so much more interested in government class in high school had it been this kind of teaching. I think that kids would love this kind of stuff, and the way it's all taught in school inherently makes it boring and not very. It takes the power away from the people, and kids just yawn through school. But wouldn't it have been amazing for you to learn this stuff as a child?
Yeah, I wrote my book it's like a textbook. I mean, a lot of people are saying it should be used in schools.
Yeah, I imagine you probably think that's not going to happen, right?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. But you can go to my website. I want the listeners to know that you can download the first 2 chapters for free. You don't have to buy the book to, I want people to educate themselves so we can get out of this mess.
Oh, that's nice. So you can get the first 2 chapters for free, and then if you like it, you can continue on and just make the purchase.
Right.
Wow. So now with speeding tickets, we just kind of talked a little bit. What about things like jury duty and things that people get caught up in in their daily lives? Taxes and jury duty and these kinds of things are kind of common ways people get roped into doing things.
Well, there's lawful juries and there's legal juries. Right now, we're running the legal system, so we have legal juries. Mm-hmm. We have, legal judges. What we want to do is destroy the legal system and put the lawful system back. I mean, under lawful system, you wouldn't need an attorney really to represent you. You'd go before 12 people. You could state your case. And they make their decision.
Okay, in a lawful court.
A lawful court, common law court. I mean, you didn't. A lot of times, when we had common law, people would be their own attorney.
Okay. Wow.
Now you have to have an attorney. You don't have to, but I mean, you got all these legal rules, and they'll disallow this or won't allow that. I mean, it's all a bunch of crap.
Yeah,
there's no justice in the legal system at all.
And they made it so complex that it almost requires someone like a lawyer, huh?
Yeah, you have to know procedure.
Yeah.
It's not about justice, it's about legal procedure.
All right, so I want to ask you, I know we're running out of time, but we can actually stay as long as you like. I know you're on a busy schedule, but I wanted to ask you about a couple different issues like licenses, and we talked a little bit about the income tax, but we didn't talk about that really too much. But as far as licenses go, it seems like everyone needs a license for, to do anything. You turn around, you need a license. You walk into a store, you need a license. And to me, that just seems a little bit excessive, and it doesn't seem like, isn't a license permission to do what's otherwise would be illegal?
That's what a license is. And free people don't need a license from the government. If you're free, you don't need a license to build a picket fence around your house, right?
Right.
Why would you need that? Because the government owns your house, and so they're going to extort money from you by requiring you to get a license to drive. Free Americans can drive from point A to point B. You don't need a license. Mm-hmm. It's our perception. We've been conditioned to believe that we need these things, and that's the way it is.
Because you don't need a license to lawfully travel down the highway, do you? You
do not.
Yeah.
But that we've got cops out there, and they've gone to police academies, and they've been taught to enforce the law. They're law enforcement officers to enforce the legal law upon us. They're not peace officers to protect us anymore.
Right. Yeah, because whenever someone is driving down the highway and they see a cop behind them, everybody's heart skips a beat and hoping they don't get pulled over. They're not looking at these cops like you just said, peace officers, where they're really out and they're your ally. Everyone's afraid of these people,
Right.
Yeah. It's, wow. So we've really been conditioned, I think, from the ground up. I think from birth on up to, this whole submission to authority thing is really just woven in everything we've been taught, and it's crazy.
Yeah, if you look at our schools, they look like prisons.
Aren't they built by the same companies that build prisons?
I think they are, but all our kids they're conditioned. The ones that are free thinkers, they get that beat out of them as quickly as possible. They try to teach them how to be a good citizen. They have them under surveillance 24/7. At the schools. They're teaching them to be good corporate citizens when they grow up, and they're used to being under surveillance. They're used to having no privacy, and that's the world we live in now. The government has no right to watch us 24/7 on cameras.
No,
that's a violation of our privacy.
So is it safe to say that your work and your first book is kind of saying, hey, everyone, look at this. This is the way it really works versus what you think the way it works, and kind of opening people's eyes to what's really going on. And then your second book that's coming out soon is going to be teaching people a little bit more about, hey, how can we kind of function in this kind of society? Is that safe to say?
This is what we can do to restore our lawful republic. Is what the second book's about.
Okay.
These 4 or 5 things.
Okay.
And we don't need to educate what I call the sheeple, the people that are just never going to wake up. All the patriot organizations, all the freedom organizations, and people like you that are aware of some of this information, we can take the information in my book and we can do it ourselves. We don't need anybody else.
I love it. It really kind of gives power into the people's hands, which is where it should be. Do you have a couple extra minutes here?
Sure.
Okay, great. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the income taxes, and everyone thinks that they must pay income taxes, and you're not being a good citizen if you don't pay income taxes. And there's a lot of loaded terms there. Income is loaded, kind of a loaded word, and many people think, oh, if I didn't pay my income taxes, how are we going to have roads and schools and things like that? So talk a little bit about the Grace Commission, and talked about where income taxes go, and what income means and how jurisdiction plays a role in all this stuff?
Well, income is actually it's a territorial device. Income tax is the actual definition of income tax is a tax on a Guam citizen.
Okay.
So income tax is for territorial citizens. The IRS resides in the territories. So what happens when you file your first 1040 form, you file it voluntarily, at gunpoint, but voluntarily.
Right.
And what you do is you have put yourself into their jurisdiction, into the corporate territorial jurisdiction. You're saying, I live and work in California, but I'm actually one of your territorial corporate citizens from Guam, which is otherwise I wouldn't be filing this 1040 form.
Right.
Because union state citizens are free and they don't have to pay income taxes. So you rope yourself into the system.
Okay. Because
you're taught to do so.
You're taught that. So as a child, maybe who works, someone who's, I know I started working when I was 14. I don't even know if I had I must have had a Social Security number by then, but we're basically taught that when we start out working, right, that we need to file that 1040 form.
Sure.
Okay, and then once you do, you're kind of locked in, right, for a while, I guess?
Well, you're legally locked in. We could protect ourselves. If you were, for instance, to go before a judge and a jury for tax evasion, if everybody on the jury knew that there's no such thing as tax evasion, that you didn't have to pay income tax in the first place, they'd just acquit you.
Okay.
And if everybody got acquitted, then they stop arresting people for that, because the American people would know that income taxes are unlawful and unconstitutional, and every time they arrest one of us, the jury's just going to acquit us, so that would stop. That's one way we could protect ourselves, but we don't. That's the difference between a legal court and a lawful court. Now, the judge in a legal court, he'll get up there and say, you can't vote your conscience, and you have to, only look at the legal laws set before you and all this crap, and that's not true.
Right.
You can actually annul you can annul the law if when you're on the jury, but the judge will lie to you and tell you can't.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So now with the income taxes, I've heard this argument before where they say, really income is only determined or defined as corporate profit. Therefore, the average citizen is not involved in a corporation, so there's no corporate profit. But really, if we understand that our straw man, or whatever you want to call it, is a corporation, wouldn't that be considered a corporate profit? But really, it's, again, if I go to work for you, isn't that a private contract? Or is our corporation, or do they determine that even though we don't think we're corporations, we really are, so we're liable for income taxes?
Well, the Constitution doesn't allow a capitation tax on a person. That's a direct tax.
Okay.
So until that's repealed, it's in place. It's in the Constitution for the United States of America. It does not allow a direct tax, and an income tax is a direct tax on your head, which is totally against the Constitution.
And people think
so taxes. You got indirect taxes and direct taxes. Direct taxes are not allowed.
Direct taxes. Okay. So direct taxes are not allowed, and that would be considered income tax.
That'd be considered income tax is a direct tax. It's unconstitutional.
Okay. And an indirect tax, what would that be? Like paying gas, or when you buy gas?
Yeah, that's duties, imposts, and excise taxes. Everybody pays the same.
Okay.
If you're involved in import and export, you're going to pay a tax. The tax goes to the United States of America, the actual country. The excise taxes. Look at your phone bill. There's an excise tax there.
Yeah.
Everybody pays that same excise tax.
Okay, and those are okay?
It's uniform. It's indirect uniform tax.
And those are okay?
Those are okay.
Okay.
That's how the government runs, on duties, imposts, and excise taxes. How the United States of America, the republic, runs. The United States corporation runs on income taxes.
And they didn't even set up the income tax whole sham until the 1933 or the 30s or something, right? Right.
And income taxes, there was a victory tax, and then all government employees were forced to pay income taxes. And that's why you see these old movies with the revenuers coming out to the old shacks in the country, and the old hillbillies are shooting at the revenuers because they're trying to extort money from them. That's income tax agents trying to extort money from them, and they know they don't have the right.
So really, all of the government programs and things, and they don't run on our income tax, right?
No, they don't. I mean, what happens when you file an income tax return is your money goes to the Federal Reserve, then it goes into what's called a quad zero account for drawback purposes.
Quad zero.
And it stays in that account until you file your tax return. The drawback purposes, when you file your tax return, you get your refund back.
Okay.
And then it goes off to the International Monetary Fund. Now, the United States Corporation is a partner with the International Monetary Fund.
Shocking.
So all your income tax money goes there, then the United States Corporation borrows money back from the international bankers who control the International Monetary Fund. And that's where all our deficit comes from, a lot of it.
Now, does that
just keep borrowing more money to keep us in economic servitude?
Does any of our income tax money ever get distributed to the Federal Reserve and the interest that we accrue from the money we borrow from the Federal Reserve?
The Federal Reserve makes money, whenever for fraction banking. Federal Reserve is an intricate part of the International Monetary Fund. I mean, it's all just one big scam.
Golly. And it's woven throughout everything we do. It's crazy.
Right, everything we do. And see, when you pay an income tax, you're supporting the United States corporation. You're not supporting the United States of America.
Okay, yeah, because the corporation is what uses your income tax. So now, where does the money go for all these government programs? Because a lot of typically Democrats might say, well, we want to help the poor and we want to help this and we need our taxes to be raised to pay for these things. That's not actually even happening, right?
Well, I'm sure they get it from somewhere. It's usually borrowed money, which is why our deficit keeps growing.
Right. Oh, wow. So
they want to keep us in servitude to international bankers, so as long as we're in debt.
And no matter how much money you have, you can't be out of debt, right? Ever.
No, you can't. I mean, your legal fiction, your name in all capital letters, when you sign anything with your name in all capital letters, it implies an assumed debt guaranteed without any offer of proof. Because you're saying, I'm one of the corporations of the United States Corporation, and I have to work to support the parent corporation. Wow. Everything I own, they own.
Jeez. So, is there any consequences, do you think, for using money that it's not really money? They're Federal Reserve notes, but do you think there's any consequences by? Does it rope us into more of their corporate fiction jurisdiction if we use Federal Reserve notes or what are called dollars?
Yeah, they consider that. Yeah, we're using their money, but there's no other money to use, thanks to Congress.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of that are trying to come out into the population, but they're not taking off. But
right.
And I don't think they ever would they? Like Bitcoin and these things, they probably never would they?
No, I mean, it makes it. All this audit the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff, it's silly. We shouldn't be auditing the Federal Reserve. We should be educating ourselves and maybe putting everybody in Congress in jail for passing the Federal Reserve Act, giving a private bank control of our money.
Yeah, it's interesting that knowledge is becoming more and more mainstream, and people are understanding that that's happening, whereas 20, 30 years ago it didn't seem like it's a lot of people understood that there is the Federal Reserve and they're a private bank. And aren't they owned by 9 or 10 different companies like Goldman Sachs and things?
Yeah, which is owned by a bunch of wealthy families through corporations. And yeah.
Wow.
I haven't checked on who exactly owns it now. Haven't looked lately.
So how does that whole maritime equity, admiralty, the law of the sea, do you know anything about that? Does that play a role in our lives? That's
a part of legal law.
Part of legal law, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a hierarchy of laws. You have statutory law.
Uh-huh.
And you have constitutional law. Then there's King's law.
King's law.
And then there's a law of conquest, and God's law at the top.
Okay.
Now, the next highest law is law of conquest. We've been conquered. America's been economically conquered.
Uh-huh.
All the gun control issues and trying to get rid of guns, they were getting ready to physically conquer us. I mean, if you saw the hunt for this 19-year-old kid, they shut down Boston and surrounding areas and imposed martial law.
Yeah,
to find one kid, a 19-year-old. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but that was a test. That was a test to see if Americans would allow, military troops on the streets, and we did.
And they have no jurisdiction. Military troops should never be on the streets, right?
Oh, and if you saw the film of that, they knew who they were looking for. They knew what the 19-year-old boy was. They knew his name. They had his picture, and they're going from house to house, making people with babies and women and children raise their hands at gunpoint and leave their homes so they can search their homes. And that's totally unconstitutional, totally unlawful. It's an act of treason by Obama, the governor, and the mayor of Boston to allow such a thing.
Do you think
they're all committing treason? I mean, everybody, Congress, most members of Congress commit treason every day. The only one that I would totally trust, he's gone now, is Ron Paul. He refused to commit treason.
Yeah.
It baffles me that the guy was running for president. He said he would get rid of income taxes, and he can't get elected.
He can't win.
That's crazy.
I was going to ask you. There's so much here we could talk about. Do you vote in elections?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't.
I can't imagine that vote is. I mean, wouldn't you think that the powers that be, like the Bilderberg Group and all these people, wouldn't they already have the quote unquote president determined already? I mean, would they really give people the right to vote and to select their president?
Yeah, that's meaningless. I'll vote at the local level, the state level, but usually your presidential votes, it's meaningless. They control both sides. They control the Democrats and the Republicans. But I mean, every once in a while, you get a Tea Party congressman or senator that, he gets into office and he's got to supposedly go battle with the rest of the treasonous a-holes that are in government. And,
right.
Until we get rid of most of the treasonous a-holes and turn our legal government into a lawful government, I mean, that's not the recipe for success. That's one or two guys. Like, Ron Paul didn't have a lot of success there.
No. So how long do you think we'll keep kicking the can down the road here in America? I mean, how long do you think it'll just continue on for 50, 100, 200 more years like this? Or do you see some changes coming? Or
I see people waking up. They're getting pissed off because the government's overstepping their bounds, by a lot here lately, and it's really pissing people off. But unless we wake up soon, we're going to wake up one day, just like in Boston. That
mm-hmm.
that was a test, and so now all the government would have to do is maybe plant some bombs in some major cities and say they got to roll out the troops to search for the terrorists, and all of a sudden we're a conquered people. No shots fired.
It seems interesting with what you're talking about and this whole thing in Boston, and there's that whole Sandy Hook thing, and it just seems like there's so many fishy things going on. And we gave up our TV, Kate and I, years ago, but isn't that a powerful way that people get programmed and people get, not only through school, but that's a whole different issue, but even just watching the news and watching TV, and they start believing these things that, just about everything that's on that TV is not true. It's all just
it's especially the TV shows. They got so many TV shows with FBI, CIA, and police shows.
Yeah,
where these cops are violating our rights. They're the heroes, and they know who's good and who's bad, and because they're just that smart. But they come in, they violate everybody's rights, and for the good of everybody, they violate this person's rights for the good of the masses, and that's not. They have no jurisdiction to do that.
Yeah, I was watching.
They're teaching us that they do.
Yeah, it's sort of like what do they call that? Paid product placement in place of commercials, where they just have the actor hold a Coke and things. And I was watching, there was recently a story here in California where you may have heard of it. I don't know, this guy, and Jeffrey Dorner, and I think that was his name, and he killed a bunch of police officers and things. And
Christopher Dorner.
Yeah, and when they had I was at the gym, and so everyone was crowded around the TV at the gym, and they had the camera on the police officers, right on the street there, stopping every car that was coming in and out of that Big Bear area where they ended up getting them. And the officers were walking up to each car and opening the door and allowing telling people to come out and just question them for 5 seconds, and then looking around in their back seat, and then they let them go. But that's another instance of them violating our rights, because they have no right to open a door, right, of our car.
Right, they don't. But once again, your car doesn't really belong to you. And back when this started, they had to trick us. But now, they got the police forcing us to do their bidding, and so they don't have to trick us anymore. They just violate our rights, and we wonder, well, how are they doing this? And it was a trick at first, but now it's just turning into conquest.
It is, little by little, isn't it? With all these little flare-ups that are happening, like Boston and things, right?
Right.
Wow, and we don't even touch into all the shady things that are going on about, with that whole thing. But, maybe it's like you said, maybe it's just a testing ground for them to see how much they can get away with. And when they want to actually use, real power and real force, they know they can just get away with it really easy.
Well, it was that. And, if you look at non-mainstream media, the bombings were actually, it was looking like it might have been somebody else besides those two brothers.
Yeah.
Looked like it might have been a false flag, government false flag. So they had to have something sensational for the sheeple to watch that would make them not think about the government might have been behind the bombing. So you get martial law in Boston. That's something to look at and talk about and make you forget about what just happened or who might have been really behind the bombings.
Yeah. And, too, I think a lot of what we need to understand as citizens, I guess, if you say that word, but is just to understand that the government isn't necessarily out for our good. And, they act and talk like they are, but I think we're programmed, again, to think that, these people are always out to help us and to improve our lives in some way. But that's just, we got to get out of that whole thinking, I think.
Yeah, we don't control our government. Until the people control their government again, it's not going to be for our own good. A legal government is controlled by corporations. The elitist lawful government would be controlled by the people. We don't have a lawful government anymore. We have a legal government that's controlled by corporations, and the corporations are controlling us, and that's all they care about, is maintaining control over us.
Oh, man, it's all about control and corporate profit and corporate greed and really just control. And wow, it's I think it's important to understand that. And so you go out and do you do lectures, or do you do mainly radio interviews and write books and things, or?
Mainly radio interviews and write books. I'm also one of the founding members of United We Strike. It's an international organization that we put on a radio marathon once a month, 12-hour marathon once a month internationally, so to try to wake people up all over the world. That's UnitedWeStrike.com.
United We Strike, okay. And that's a radio program that people can listen to if they want. Is it a paid thing or is it a free thing? Or
it's free. You can go to UnitedWeStrike.com and there's archives on the website.
And there are lectures or talks between people like yourself and other people?
Yeah, all kinds of people. People like you about health. All kinds of people.
Wow, jeez.
And the freedom movement all over the world.
You know, I wonder, I was just going to say, it's just amazing in this culture, the amount of knowledge that's able to be disseminated, around the world these days. I mean, you could do something and, if we were live right now, someone in Australia could be listening to us. And so do you foresee, I know we got to go and all this, but I just had this question. Do you foresee any issues going on with the internet? Because, man, this knowledge is, people are waking up, and I wonder what's going to happen to the internet.
Well, that's why government's trying to get control of the internet. The mainstream media has been bought by the elites as far as back as 1800s. They control the media. They control what you hear and what you don't hear.
Right.
So the internet is really the only, and shows like yours, non-mainstream, are the only way that we can get truthful information. Mm-hmm. And that's why the government's trying to control the internet now, is to shut it down. So they can control it like TV and newspapers and magazines.
Well, yeah, it's crazy because they wouldn't want people to heal their cancer by themselves for, pennies. They want them to go through chemotherapy, which costs, $700,000. They don't want people to wake up and realize they don't have to pay income tax. I mean, there's a lot of things that it's in their best interest to make sure that we, I guess, just
you can't get the information out. Yeah. We do, but a lot of people still don't believe it. I mean, it's hard to believe that you got a whole nation of people paying income taxes and you don't lawfully have to. When people hear that, and you see people going to jail all the time, but that's because we don't protect ourselves in the courts. Right.
And they always make that...
We convict ourselves on every single instance when you go before a court or a jury. It's a group of us convicting ourselves of legal laws when a lot of times there's no crime has even been committed because we don't have the knowledge. And that's why I wrote my book, to give people the knowledge. That's why you can, download the first free 2 chapters free, and pay attention to the chapter on law.
Yeah.
Even before you don't even have to buy the book to understand what's going on if you read those first 3 chapters.
Wasn't there a couple different Supreme Court judges that said a few years back, like maybe in the 80s, that everyone who goes to prison does so voluntarily? It's a voluntary thing that when people go to jail, it's all voluntary. It's all contract and it's all voluntary.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you go before a judge, he's gonna call your name, and he's calling the name Justin in all caps.
Right.
And you're thinking he's calling you by your proper name. He's referring to the corporation, and you say, yes, I'm here, and he said, do you understand why you're here? And you say yes,
There you, and then you're just in that spiral, right?
Right.
I think that your information is, it's something that I think is really important, but it's also something that I think that a lot of our listeners are going to be interested in because it does involve health issues because, there's stories going around all the time where, city people are telling, certain people they can't have gardens in their house and they can't grow their own food. And it really kind of affects, no matter what you're into in life, it really just affects everything you do,
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's just getting, they got a grip around our neck and it's getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah. Well, so when is your next book coming out?
I'm hoping it'll be out in maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 4 to 6 weeks. And is that one going to be a big one like your first one?
No, it's going to be short and sweet.
Okay.
These are the things we can do, and let's get to it.
I love it. I love it. 4 to 6 weeks. We might have to have you on again and kind of dive into some of these issues again.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I love it.
Happy to.
All right. So thank you so much for being on, Charles. I appreciate all of your wisdom here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Justin.
Yeah, no problem. Can you hold on the line for just a sec?
Sure.
Excellent. Wow. What did you think about Charles Erwin from AmericanFreedomBooks.com? Whew. That was interesting stuff. And I hope that it was interesting to you. And, a lot of this stuff is really interesting because in my mind, it's just important to know what we're dealing with, because there's not really a lot we can do. I mean, there are things we can do to live more gracefully in this corporate controlled society. But when you really think about it, they own everything and they control everything. So it's really difficult, like he was saying, to live without a birth certificate or live without a social security number. It is possible. And understanding what's going on is, I think, the first step. And, if something ever does happen, if someone comes to your house and wants you to force you out of your house, or if they want to tell you can't grow a garden, or if they want to tell you that you have to get health insurance, or if they want to tell you that you can't get natural substances here in America, you have to go to Mexico, or we need to offer mandatory vaccinations for your child, or these types of things, if they want you to participate in their control like this, at least you're understanding now more what's going on and what's happening. And so I think that's the first step, and choosing how to deal with that, that's really the next step. That's where you want to go. You can choose to fight, and that would not be the way that I would go. Fighting only creates stress and disease, and obviously we're not into that. And so it's not good to fight. What I like is to realize that everything that they're seemingly forcing upon us is really just an offer. It's just really an offer, and we can choose or deny that offer. And so that's really kind of a good way to think about those types of things. And so anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you are going to get more interested in this type of work that Charles Erwin is doing. And make sure to visit his blog too. He's got a really great blog. It's at blog.americanfreedombooks.com. And you can read more about his work there and his blog posts, as well as get his book. I'd highly recommend his book. His book is really good. And his new one coming out is going to be, I'm sure, just as good as the second or as the first one. So check that out. And if you want to check out the show page for this episode, it's extremehealthradio.com/99. And I'll have all the links on that page. And let's see what else. I want to thank Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com for having us on his network. Really, really great to be on there. And let's see, if you could like this show page, extremehealthradio.com/99, and click the like button at the very top. We'd appreciate that. And also follow us on Facebook. That would be really, really helpful. If you could just kind of use Facebook to help get the word out, we would really, really appreciate that. Maybe you can tell your Facebook friends to, put a link to our Facebook account, maybe in one of your status updates, and tell all your friends about our show. We would really, really appreciate that. So if you could help us out in that way, we would be just so grateful for that. I was talking with Charles off the air. Who knows who owns Facebook, right? And Google and all these things. But, I figure let's use them while we have them. It gets the word out and helps people learn and grow. So thank you so much for listening to extremehealthradio.com. Kate and I really appreciate it. And it's just an honor to be on here. And if we could ever do anything for you, please let us know. Email us and let us know how we can help you, or you can also call us on Skype at Extreme Health Radio. But please, if you can,